How's it going, everybody? For today's video game review, we're going to be looking at a really weird one today. This is Somari. This is an extremely odd hack game that has been ported onto an NES cart, and I really want to review it. I can finally play it authentically. The most I can tell you about it is that it was probably released in Russia or China in 1994 when pirate games were very prevalent at that time, and you can barely fathom what it's like to play a Sonic game on a Nintendo console. But anyway, really excited to show it to you guys. Let's take a look at it.
Almost got the sound of that right. Man, have you ever seen anything as weird as this? It's actually pretty well done, especially considering the Sega Genesis was 16 bits and the NES is only 8. Let's compare the two. So the game begins, and yep, it's all that you expected. You are Mario playing as Sonic. Isn't it weird to see Mario roll up into a little ball, charge up, and then roll? Isn't it weird to see Mario run around in a loop? You know, a lot of reviewers give this game hell, and admittedly, it's nowhere near as good as the actual Sonic, but I have to say, it's a pretty damn good clone, considering that this is on an NES. In fact, I'd say this game actually has some of the best looking animations and graphics that I've seen on an NES game. So, there's a few questions people ask me about this game when I show it to them. First and foremost, is the gameplay good, or is it just a collector's item? Well, actually, the gameplay isn't bad. Now, the controls sometimes feel a little delayed, but overall, it actually plays quite well on the NES for what it is, a fast-paced side-scroller. The second question I get is, man, this thing must be really rare and valuable, is it? Well, yes and no. This topic really gets into a lot of technicalities and is very debatable. It depends on what we're talking about. I mean, this is a reproduction cart, so my actual physical copy isn't valuable or rare. But on the other hand, it is uncommon because you never see this thing just sitting around for sale in a store. But then again, how can you call it a reproduction if the game itself is a hack? Well, I'm sure somewhere out there are original copies from whomever first created this hack, and I'll bet those original cartridges actually probably fetch a pretty good price and rarity. But it's so hard to classify this because we're dealing with practically a different species of NES game altogether. So let's leave all the rarity and value out and give it a score based just upon its gameplay alone. The most important factor, right? Based on gameplay alone, I'd give it about a 5.75 out of 10. It isn't bad, but it isn't great either. However, the item, nonetheless, is a real oddity and conversation piece, so if you're ever out in a flea market or shop and happen to stumble upon a copy of Somari, I'd snag it. Regardless of its authenticity, it makes for a nice oddity to any NES collection, and who knows, it could be an original copy and be worth a lot of money.